We all seek something more in life, a form of existence that transcends the ordinary, a path that offers us strength and control over ourselves. Yet, many are bound to illusions, trapped in the ephemeral pleasures and temporary distractions. But there exists a higher self within each of us, one that is stoic, unshaken by the chaos of the world. To live in this higher self is to experience life as it was meant to be lived, not in the pursuit of fleeting happiness, but in the cultivation of inner peace, resilience, and mastery over our own minds. What does it mean to live in one's higher self? It means to exist in a state where external events lose their power over us, where emotions no longer drive us into despair or indulgence, but rather, we respond with reason, fortitude, and a calm sense of purpose. Let us journey into the depths of this philosophy, for the path is not easy, but through understanding, we will find the strength to rise above our current selves and embody the discipline necessary to achieve this higher existence. The call to mastery over the self. Imagine a ship in the midst of a violent storm. The winds roar, the waves crash, and the horizon disappears into a dark abyss. Now imagine the captain of that ship. Does he panic? Does he scream in fear or curse his fate? Number. He stands firm, hands steady on the wheel, his mind calm and focused. He knows he cannot control the storm, but he can control his ship. This is the essence of living in your higher self. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most celebrated Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the first step to living in your higher self, realizing that true power lies within. Our emotions, driven by the external world, often seek to dictate our actions. Anger, fear, and desire cloud our judgment, leading us down destructive paths. But when we master our inner world, these emotions no longer hold sway over us. Living in the higher self means embodying this control. It is the recognition that we are not slaves to our emotions or to the whims of fortune. Epictetus, another profound Stoic thinker, taught that we should focus solely on what is within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our will. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. These words ring true for anyone seeking to rise above the base emotions that plague humanity. In every moment, the higher self asks, "Is this reaction worthy of me? Is it within my power to change this? If not, then why allow it to disturb my peace?" Overcoming destructive emotions. To live in your higher self, you must conquer the most dangerous adversary you will ever face, yourself. The Stoics believe that destructive emotions, anger, jealousy, fear, are born from ignorance and misjudgment. When we become slaves to these emotions, we lose the clarity and composure necessary to act virtuously and wisely. Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, wrote extensively on the power of controlling one's emotions. He said, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today. You are arranging what lies in fortune's control and abandoning what lies in yours. To be consumed by anger or fear is to relinquish our present, to surrender our ability to act with wisdom and strength. The higher self knows that emotions are fleeting. They pass like clouds in the sky. The storm of anger will subside. The heat of desire will cool. What remains is the calm, centered self, grounded in reason and principle." But this is not to say we should suppress or deny our emotions. The Stoics never advocated for emotional numbness. Rather, they encouraged the practice of viewing emotions with detachment, allowing them to pass without letting them control us. This detachment is not indifference, it is mastery. It is the ability to observe the rise of anger, fear, or grief, and to say, "This too shall pass." The strength of endurance, fortitude in the face of adversity. Life, in all its uncertainty and unpredictability, will test us. Loss, failure, betrayal, and hardship will come. There is no escaping it. Yet the higher self is not concerned with avoiding pain or discomfort. It does not seek a life of ease. Instead, it welcomes adversity as a crucible in which our character is forged. In the words of Epictetus, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. When we face trials, we are given the opportunity to demonstrate our strength, our courage, and our resolve. The higher self understands that suffering is not to be feared but embraced. It is in the struggle that we grow. Living in your higher self means cultivating fortitude, a steadfastness in the face of adversity. It means accepting pain, hardship, and loss with grace, knowing that these are inevitable parts of life. The higher self does not flinch in the face of suffering but meets it with resilience and dignity. This is not the false fortitude of denial or bravado. It is the quiet, enduring strength of someone who knows that they cannot be broken by external circumstances. As Seneca wrote, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. To persist, to endure, to continue on the path of virtue despite the trials we face, that is true strength. The power of reason, a guide in every situation. One of the most profound aspects of living in your higher self is the reliance on reason as the ultimate guide. The Stoics revered reason as the highest faculty of the human mind. It is through reason that we discern what is good, what is just, and what is virtuous. The higher self does not act impulsively or irrationally. It weighs decisions carefully, seeking to align actions with wisdom and justice. Reason should be our guide, wrote Marcus Aurelius. It is the governing power in all human beings. In every situation, no matter how challenging or emotionally charged, the higher self pauses, reflects, and acts with reason. This is not always easy, for the pull of emotions can be strong. But reason, when cultivated, becomes a powerful ally. Through the practice of reason, we learn to see things as they truly are, not as our fears or desires would have us see them. We strip away illusion and view the world with clarity. The higher self does not cling to fantasies or false hopes. It embraces reality with a calm and steady mind. This is why the Stoics practiced the discipline of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. By imagining the worst-case scenarios in advance, they prepared themselves to face life's challenges without fear or anxiety. They knew that whatever might come, they could meet it with reason and resilience. Freedom from the opinions of others. A common trap we fall into is the desire for the approval and validation of others. We seek praise, recognition, and status, believing that these external markers will give us worth. But the higher self knows that true freedom comes from within, not from the opinions of others. Epictetus taught, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." The higher self does not seek validation from the world, for it understands that the opinions of others are fickle and often driven by their own biases and fears. What matters is not what others think of us, but how we live in accordance with our principles. Living in your higher self means freeing yourself from the need for approval. It means acting in alignment with your values, regardless of whether others praise or criticize you. This is the essence of true independence, the ability to stand firm in your convictions, unshaken by the judgments of others. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." The higher self is rich in its contentment, for it does not seek fulfillment in external wealth, fame, or recognition. It finds satisfaction in living a life of virtue, wisdom, and inner peace. The pursuit of virtue, the highest aim. At the heart of living in your higher self is the pursuit of virtue. The Stoics believed that virtue is the only true good, and that a life lived in accordance with virtue is the path to true happiness. Virtue, for the Stoics, is not a vague or abstract concept. It is the practice of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in every aspect of life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." To live in your higher self is to embody virtue in every thought, every action, and every decision. It is to strive for excellence in all that you do, not for the sake of external rewards, but because it is the right thing to do. The higher self does not seek shortcuts or easy gains. It is not concerned with material wealth or superficial success. It understands that true fulfillment comes from living a life of purpose, integrity, and moral excellence. The Stoics taught that virtue is within the reach of every person, regardless of their circumstances. Wealth, status, and power are irrelevant. What matters is how we choose to live. Epictetus, who was born a slave, rose to become one of the most revered philosophers of his time. He taught that no external condition can prevent us from living a virtuous life. The only obstacle is ourselves. The unshaken self. Rising above fear and death fear, especially the fear of death, is one of the most powerful forces that prevent us from living in our higher selves. We dread the unknown, the loss of life, the cessation of our existence. But the Stoics taught that death is a natural part of life, and to fear it is to waste the life we have been given. Seneca wrote, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive." To live in fear of death is to live in chains. The higher self understands that death is inevitable, and that it should not be feared but accepted with calmness and grace. In accepting death, we free ourselves from the greatest fear that binds us. Marcus Aurelius reflected often on his mortality, reminding himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This meditation on death, known as memento mori, is not a morbid obsession, but a reminder to live fully and virtuously in the present moment. The higher self does not cling to life out of fear or desperation. It understands that death is simply a part of the natural order, and when the time comes, it will meet it with dignity, knowing that it has lived a life of purpose and integrity. The journey to the higher self. To live in your higher self is to embark on a lifelong journey. It is not a destination that we reach once and for all, but a path that we walk every day. It requires discipline, reflection, and a constant commitment to growth. But the rewards are profound. Inner peace, strength, and a life lived in accordance with the highest principles. We must remember that we are not alone on this journey. The Stoics remind us that we are all part of the same human family, bound by our shared experiences of suffering, joy, fear, and hope. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." In living in our higher selves, we not only elevate our own lives, but contribute to the betterment of those around us. The road ahead will not be easy. We will face challenges, both from within and from the world around us. But if we remain steadfast in our commitment to self-mastery, to virtue, and to reason, we will find the strength to overcome whatever obstacles lie in our path. Conclusion: the eternal strive. As we close this reflection, let us take with us the wisdom of the Stoics and the clarity of their teachings. To live in our higher selves is not merely a philosophical idea. It is a call to action, a challenge to rise above our lower impulses and to strive for something greater. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Each obstacle we face is an opportunity to grow, to strengthen our resolve, and to move closer to our higher selves. The journey will never be complete. But in the striving, in the daily practice of virtue, in the moments of self-mastery, we will find the true essence of what it means to live a life of purpose, strength, and resilience. This is the path of the higher self. It is the path of the Stoic, and it is the path that, when walked with courage and determination, leads to the fulfillment of our highest potential.